See you, Buster.
So thank you for calling me. Sorry to do that.
That's okay.
I think you already know how I feel when you do stuff. That's why I don't look around, other than my.
I clearly am not.
Wow. I didn't go on it, but I helped him get going.
Sam's here on the phone.
Okay.
So we have a quorum.
Was Jackson or Riley here?
Yeah. I was on my way home and I saw him come in and I'm like, I knew who was on, and they're both females, and I'm like, nothing against them, but, and I also knew the patient by the address and what was going on. I'm like, nah, they're gonna need some help getting her out. Yeah. Got him running.
I don't know.
Yeah.
When you actually take, so all the dotted items on there, that's where he gets the 95,000. Okay, and I said, well, eventually, you know, next year, we sit down with the townships.
So. Simple that.
Yeah.
Because the figures are sweet.
When in doubt, double down.
Well, what's 15,000 a year at the very bottom? Go to the very bottom. 10,000 for
19's always
awards
a good number to get a hit on.
Yeah, so
and 15,000 for,
equipment, damage, replacement.
Oh.
What kind of office supplies do they need?
I don't know. We didn't get into the specs. It's just the first time that I've ever seen any kind of
Okay.
line item, but again, they're more anticipating a
It's
2020,
a place to start.
Yep.
right, 2021 versus 21. What?
Bowers here?
Yes, my phone. Sam, can you hear us?
Right, right.
I don't think Sam can hear us.
Sam, you good?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're down here today to talk about the budget. And that alone, Brock just brought in some new numbers for Nate to look at, but right now, I'd rather go with what we've discussed about and talked about. Yeah, so, if we proceed, Nate, can you kind of break it down for us?
Yeah, the total,
You want to approve the agenda?
we need a
Motion to approve the agenda.
second.
Yep, thank you. Second,
Yeah.
Chad got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay, sorry, go ahead, Nate.
Right now, the budget spreadsheet as presented in Board Docs is the same spreadsheet as you would have seen at the special meeting on the 4th. With total revenue of $1,667,926.46, matching expenditures of that same amount. The only real item left to discuss, from my perspective, from what I've heard from members of council, is where we set that final department number, and where we set that at. If there's a desire for that number to change, to move from where it's currently at 55,000 total for the fire department, we need to make those changes this afternoon in advance of tomorrow's special meeting where we consider the ordinance. That's the item that I've heard is up for discussion, although any item on the budget can be discussed at this point as it was agenda.
I'll just put it out after much consideration. Just looking at, I have no doubt about the validities of the numbers that Nathan gave us. I don't have any question about that. What I do have a question is I don't have a good enough picture of what it is that we need to do to help the fire department, what we need, what monies they need. Given that, because we just need some more information and we need that. So I proposed for this year, looking at the 71.5 to be a kind of an immediate number, but then we have to follow up with having more discussions with them and figure out, so we get the information we need to make a good decision. That's my input.
Well, when we worked off the 106 number, and I explained this to Wayne and John last night, the 106 number that Wayne brought to us about a month ago, or whatever that Wednesday night was, included the exhaust and included the barrier around that generator. Well, if we don't do the exhaust, that brings us down to 72,000 off the 106, right? Because he said it was $34,000. Then I also wondered, well, they haven't had any monies from the townships. If they would get what we feel between 12 and 15,000 from the townships, now you get down to that 58,000 range. And again, just explaining it by the numbers that they presented, that's what I came to. Now, do I think they can go to the townships tomorrow and put something together and grab that money? I don't think so. I think that's gonna take some time to work out, but the potential of those monies are there. And that's something where if we budgeted the 71.5, and they end up getting township dollars in the next whenever they meet with them, I don't expect them to use all the 71.5 based on those numbers that we got a month ago. That being said, in a meeting last night, now all of a sudden they've got a number of 201,000. And I guess I don't know how to explain that to the public, those numbers. I think they've done a little more due diligence, and maybe that's more the real number, which in reality, that's fine. But I told them that we're kind of backed into this, and they don't really expect that until we look at those things for the 2021 budget.
Originally, when all this was, we were bantering back and forth on what to do, not knowing numbers, et cetera, et cetera. My concern all along was they seemed to express a strong concern about somehow securing funds for those new SCADA units, whether it's grants or money. And originally there was an ask for the money, which wasn't going to happen. We just weren't prepared enough. 55 is where we're at now. My thought was originally when I kind of mentioned 70 something was to use that overage for SCADAs, but only for SCADAs. I don't know if everybody else's thoughts have changed. That's only going to cover a couple of them, right? But what it might do is help secure some grants that we have to do matching funds for or something like that. If am I correct in my thinking there, Nate?
Yeah, for just looking at of the FEMA AFG grant, that requires, if I remember right, from what Wayne said the other night, a 5% match. So you can figure between $5,000 and $10,000 matching required there. Obviously, if we don't get the grant, we don't need to expend those matching funds, and you can use that for what would ultimately be like one SCBA.
Right.
But there is other money available in the machinery and equipment account for SCBA's if they wish to rotate those. You could probably purchase 3 or 4 next year.
And right now, in terms of equipment, like they want to run tests on their hoses. They got 8,400 feet of hose. It's all held up really well. There might be a surprise where they don't know until they test them. They're going to test them within the next month, I guess. But yeah, the SCADA is the big need, and I told them again in the meeting too that we got to do everything we can to try to go get FEMA grant for the SCAPAs, and so they're dead set on doing everything they can to go get that. They're still looking for their SAM number, which is a number you need when you apply for a FEMA or a Department of Defense grant. He still can't lock that down or where that's located, or they're gonna go look for that. They do have an EIN number that they showed me, and I think they've got a DUNS number. Whether that's effective now or whether that's moot and they gotta get another one, I don't know. But certainly that's gotta be, I mean, when you're gonna go into a fire, they would agree that's the safest equipment you've got. You've gotta be able to breathe. And so they're talking about the size tanks, and he went into the standards of stuff, like just discussing, well, it's standard to have of those 20 for every seat. That's a standard. I don't know if we can speak against the standard. He said in a structure fire, it's standard, you gotta have 17, you've got 17 minimum that should respond to a structure fire. I didn't know that, I had no idea. And so when we start looking at this in the future, which we had discussed a little bit, looking at the percentages of the calls in the municipality, and I would say including some of the extraction or some of the accidents outside the municipality, only because they may be people of our city. You know, you're looking at about 55% of their calls. So in 2018, out of the 20 fires, 8 were in the municipality. It doesn't include false alarms, like pulling of a fire thing. 8 were in the municipality, 2 were smell of smoke, and the other 6 may have been some flames. I don't know the specifics because it didn't say, and that's the detail that they have given us just on their calls. And so we have to basically, we're in the position to say, what does the community think about just how much, you know, we do that for that number of calls in the municipality, and maybe even 12, 13 calls outside that would be, you know, accident where they've got to extract somebody. And that's a call we've got to be able to make.
Do they have their 902 form done?
Their Form 990?
Or 990?
So, as far as I understand, that hasn't been submitted yet.
Okay.
It's in process from what I understand.
Yeah. Are we certain all of their stuff is up to snuff on their end before we, you know, with the nonprofits, with those things? I mean, that's where this kind of got started, was on transparency and being able to, I mean.
That would be the last thing, right? The Form 990 that we know of.
That would be the last major statutory requirement of the law.
Right.
And we've talked before though about, is the minimum standard of the law the ethical standard that we want to hold ourselves to? So, you know, I would still obviously strongly advise an independent audit be conducted at least every other year, if not every year.
Part of what I'm thinking is that process is going to have to be an ordinance, correct?
If we are going to require it of them, yes.
Yeah.
And every nonprofit to which we give money, we have to require it.
Every, I think regardless of what we do with this, that's a separate process on that accountability. And I think that what we're learning, having people up to the table when we're in process is better than having them after we complete a process. So I would say we would continue on with the ordinance because I believe it's the correct thing to do. I believe that transparency and accountability is something we've got to keep working for. And it's not an easy task. I believe we're changing a lot of things that have been the same for many, many years, which is difficult. But I think that comes in, when the ordinance comes in, then we can talk about what contingencies come into play once we as a council decide, with input from the community, decide how that accountability piece is going to fit. And I honestly don't know personally, probably a lot of you have a better idea what that should look like. I still have some questions, but I think if we go through that process separately than this, and I don't think we stop that process, we continue on. This gives them time to do the 990, and it gives us time to think about how that whole picture fits. So, that's just my suggestion.
Aren't some of the funds that we have set aside contingent upon them completing the grant?
That's the wording we've used, yes. If I remember right,
$30,000 was set aside.
Yes, for machinery and equipment, that would be released upon either the approval or denial of the AFG grant. Now, council can decide whether to continue to require that, as a condition or not, but.
I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, because I would hate to see it, the same situation we got into last year with the same grant to where we get 90% completed and then
It doesn't get submitted.
we A, either don't know how to complete it or B, can't.
Right.
I mean, that's not fair to our taxpayers if,
No, that's it's a lot of money, and it's a big shot in the arm to our community, to our fire department, it is.
well, the community of Java, population 126 at the 2010 census, the last official census, received $100,000 in FEMA grants last year.
So they're there, you just have to,
Go get
we
them.
gotta engage and go after them.
And it's not contingent on being approved, it's just
That was,
put in the work,
just
get
make it
it,
submitted.
get it applied.
Yeah.
Right.
And get a yes or a no from FEMA.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair.
That's fair.
Gets out of their control a little bit, whether it's approved, but let's at least get it turned in.
I have no problem with that.
So we gotta decide what number we wanna be at. It's
Yep.
at 55 now, do we wanna go to the 71.5?
Well, I think the fairest thing for our citizens is to stay at the 55. I mean, I truly believe that's our fair share. I mean, in the budget they presented, based off the number of calls, that's our number for the citizens of Lennox.
Jackson, you've been pretty quiet. What are you thinking?
You don't wanna know what I'm thinking.
Part of what's on here is to be heard by everybody. It's your chance and opportunity.
What are your thoughts? The only way we're gonna come to a good decision, I mean, everybody speak freely.
You cut $55,000 out of the fire department's budget. You're gonna hire an employee we don't need. You're gonna give 2 employees a $10,000 raise. No, I will not vote for that.
For the 55,
No.
I just wanna make sure that's what you're saying. So you're at the 71, or where are you at with the number for the fire department, I
If you wanna
guess?
do 71, that's fine.
No, it's good to put it out there in the air for everybody to hear because we represent the community, not just what certain groups are thinking, but everybody. So, yeah, we do want to hear. Billy, what are your thoughts?
I think I'm gonna be okay with the 71. With the terms that are on there.
Sam? Sam?
Yeah, I couldn't really hear what Billy said or Eric Jackson. I can't hear Chad Riley very good either, but I don't know if you could give me somewhat of an update.
Chad says he thinks the 55,000 is fair. He says that he thinks that's a accurate statement of what the need is. So, paraphrasing you wrong, Chad?
I said, I think that percentage is fair for our taxpayers.
Yes. Yep.
I understand the fire department probably needs more money than that, but they need to go out and secure it from other sources that also use the resources.
Thank you for clarifying. Did you hear him that time? Must be the side of the room.
I don't think he's there.
Sam? All right. We're gonna have to proceed on. Sam? You missed Riley's explanation. Billy thought the 71 was good. And Riley gave a pretty succinct explanation about why he thought it was, what he's looking for is the taxpayers. in the fairness toward them. Okay. Do you have a thought on the amount that you think should be given?
I guess my thoughts are, I think we should stay as close as we can to the 55 number. You know, without divulging more information than we've got, it's kind of tough to go up too much from that number, in my opinion.
Okay. Right now, the two numbers that I'm hearing are 55 and 71.5.
I'd be at 55.
All right. So, is that the total extent of the budget? We can move to just approve that line item or the total budget, but I think we go either way.
Yeah, we'll approve the total budget tomorrow night when we take up the ordinance. The only thing I would suggest for today is that if we are going to change the amount that was presented at the last meeting and what's on there now, that we do so by a motion, second, and vote.
All right. So we're at a point where every member's had their voice. If we're going to change it, I need a motion in a second, then a vote.
I'm okay with the 71.5, but only if they're gonna go after, only if they can prove they've met with those townships. Because if you've got a budget of X, you may not use all the budget of X.
Mm-hmm.
And that was asked again last night, well, what happens to the monies if we don't spend it all? Can we save it and kick it over to the next year? And that's not how the budget works. Like a budget is set for a year, whatever is left over goes back into the reserve
Yes.
and the general fund. But I do think there needs to be work with some of the townships and securing funds from there. I don't think they can run on a number that we give them. In fact, I don't think we can support them to the numbers that they want. I'd like to, but I don't, in terms of what we've got, in terms of percentage of what they're doing, we can't control how many fires there are. We can't control how many accidents there are. We hope we never have to use them. And that goes for ambulance too, police too. We hope we would never have to use them. But the calls are what the calls are, you know? And so there's gotta be something done in terms of whether they're collecting from insurance, whether they're pulling money from the townships. There just has to be more ways to help fund, you know, their organization. There's no doubt about it.
One, we can look at historical data that shows a third of the calls don't happen inside the municipality.
Right,
But yet our taxpayers are funding, I
right.
would say 90% of what they spend.
I would agree with you, Chad, and I part of my thinking is, I know I've learned a lot just recently about a lot of this stuff. I don't know if you guys have, like with townships and whatnot. Whatever number we're at, whether it's 71 with some contingencies or 55, I think there needs to be a concerted effort within the next year to, one, get contracts signed that we know are state law,
Yeah.
right? Along with that, some sort of funding, whether it's from the townships or maybe the creation of a fire district. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it gives us time to have those discussions. We have to have those discussions and have some direction with this by summer of next year.
Why- The other thing I don't understand is, what was it 5 years ago they operated on a $38,000 budget? However many years ago they
Yeah, it was
operated.
pretty consistent around the 35 to high 40s mark for several years.
And that's kind of, and that has to,
So how do you operate on that? Now all of a sudden you can't operate on
and
55.
that has to be explained. That has to be explained. So if you can operate on a $35,000, $38,000, $40,000 budget one year, and I understand that things kind of, you got some big budget items or whatever, and now all of a sudden we're up to 71, or they had originally a 106.
No, originally it was 236. Because they wanted
Oh, but this-
130,000 for the stables.
Right,
and
right.
106.
You're talking about operating.
Yes, just operating budget. Like, I guess I haven't been around long enough. I don't know why in 1 year it's 38, 39, 40, and I know we were buying their ladder truck, which you had 85,000, but that still doesn't come down to the operating cost,
Yeah,
right? So,
that's a one.
again, those are questions that I think we will obviously get to and get answered. It's just in this, right now, we're at the 11th hour, and I don't like the timing of any of it.
Right.
Like, all this stuff should have happened in June. But we can't go backwards.
I think this process has been a learning thing for me too. I agree, we need to get this process started earlier. I also agree that we need to have a vehicle that we can reach out with and talk to the townships. And when I hear about Worthing having 2 meetings a year, that'd be a good start. But I think there's enough communication need here where I think we're gonna have to talk a lot more. There's a lot of questions that I have. Doing this for now, looking at how we get our accountability in, I think there's contingencies that should be there. We should have the grants turned in. I think we should have a contingency agreement that there's gonna be some reaching out to the townships. I'd like to be a partner with them, and I'd like us to be a partner with them, but we need to understand the financial end of it yet. I still have some questions, and from what I hear you guys do too, having those question answers help us to make better decisions. You make good decisions on good information, so. I've heard nothing, and I understand the 55 mark, I really do. I also understand that, to me, moving forward, we show some good faith, but then we gotta have the contingencies in there and find out what, have Chad and the fire department sit down, not just Chad, but committee. So we have a lot of ears and eyes and brains around looking at that, because what I found with this group is I make a better decision when I listen to you guys. You know, and hear what you're saying. And I think that's the strength that I think this council brings forth is you're willing to listen, but you ask doggone good questions, and you can come out to some answers. So there's got to be that part where we get it together with ourselves and them. And this hasn't really been done, to my experience, too well. To be honest, it doesn't. In my experience, this has not been done too well. This is a good start. It's a great opportunity to help educate me, help educate us as to what's going on with the fire department. We can't let it go. We've got to go on, and I firmly believe we've got to have contingencies in place for accountability for us and for them. So you guys can put on whatever, you know, on the motion.
Is that a motion by you then?
Well, I'll make a motion to keep it at 71.5 under the contingency that there's a meeting set between city representatives, the townships, and the fire department early next year.
What about the grants? Applying for the grants? Contingency on that?
Same. Those SCABAs are important. I mean, they gotta have them, and I think we can earmark X amount of dollars for 4 or 5 of those, whatever it is.
Okay, I hear the motion.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Chad Wolf. Any further discussion? Sam, did you hear what went on? Sam?
Yes, I did. I guess I'd be, kind of under the same thought as Brock on that. If we're gonna, we gotta look out for the interests of the community, not necessarily just the community, but the city is our number 1 priority, and we gotta watch the spending, make sure it's in the right spot, but we also gotta have them allow us to help them. I mean, I think there's potentially a lot of money that we could get from grants, or they could get from grants. A lot of opportunities there that maybe we could help them find stuff like that, utilizing the resources that we have. I understand there's a pride, in being in a fire department. You want to do it all yourself. However, with us being their primary supplier of funds, we have to get them to open up to us, with their bookkeeping and whatnot, and also be able to help them out through those resources that we can provide them.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna call roll call vote, and Sam, since you just talked, I'm gonna ask you first, yea or nay on the motion.
What was that?
For 71.5, with contingencies that the contact be made with townships and that the grant be pursued. That's the motion before you to vote on.
Yes.
Chad Riley,
No.
Jackson,
Alright,
Brock,
Aye.
Chad Wolf,
Alright.
Billy.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. All right, since that was the, so anything more on the budget that needs to be discussed? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Chad gets the motion, Billy gets the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, do you want me to do that today?
Bill, thank you, Jackson, thank you. Chad, thank you.